podcast, Blast of Strangeness. So, you actually read the title, and you are correct by reading the title of episode 13 of this podcast, Blast of Strangeness. So, I would definitely, I want to congratulate Anthony Constantino on up and running for the, what the heck is it, that thing there? For the Congression, for running for the 21st District of New York State. I think that's pretty good. So, now, anyway, yeah, I definitely am all for that, for him running. So, now, a lot of you are probably wondering, so why there was a part 2 to the last 2 episodes. Well, there was a part 2 to the last 2 episodes. The only reason it was a 2-part was because last week, unfortunately, the episode could not be filmed due to the fact that I had to go get some medical things done, to get some medical issues taken care of, and I also had to go get a medical issue taken care of, and it couldn't actually be done what I needed to be done, but that's besides the point, actually. So, yes, this podcast is also being recorded in real time, and also, a while back, a couple months ago, I actually got to meet a famous person, and I actually have proof of that. I have proof of that, too. I actually got to meet Greatness a while back, and I just wasn't really sure if a lot of you were aware of that or not, but I did actually get to meet him a while back. So anyway, the reason why there was a 2-part episode was because of I had to go have a medical procedure done that wasn't able to be done, unfortunately. And I'm also, once again, I want to congratulate Anthony Constantino for running for the 21st District of the state of New York. I think that's good. And definitely. And like I said, a while back, a lot of you may not know, but I did actually get to meet Greatness in upstate New York. If you see their photo right there, there's proof right there that I got to meet Greatness. So there is proof, and that way so people can't say it's a lie, because it's actually not. So anyway, hi to all of you. So, now, another thing, something I wanted to talk about too, yes, this podcast actually that I'm doing, that is actually live and being recorded in real time, there's quite a lot to it. I also talk about all kinds of things on here. Oh, you can also email the podcast, n0rdamd3@gmail.com. If you have any questions on here, I will read them, but you have to email the podcast. Oh, sorry about that. There was a little distraction there. Someone needed something, but that was just taken care of. So anyway, yeah, so if you just email the podcast, actually, and you can ask questions and they will get answered. So you can email the podcast, or if you're interested in being on the podcast, feel free to email. So anyway, like I was saying before I was distracted, so I talk about all kinds of things. Actually, one thing I talk about is bad educated mentors / teacher figures from bad experiences that I have had with that, which I'm sure a lot of you may have bad experiences with that as well. And I also talk about the alien abduction encounters experiences that I had. And I also talk about the paranormal experiences that I also had with those encounters too. And I also talk about how there's also slumlord landlords as well. But like I said, this podcast, I talk about all kinds of crazy things on here, literally. So now, like I said, please feel free to actually email the podcast, and if you do have a question, actually, it will be answered. And I'll drop this thing again. That would not be good. So, does anyone have any questions about anything that they want to email into the podcast? If so, please feel free to do so. Oh, another thing I wanted to talk about. So, recently, I actually had this experience to where I don't know if someone who was supposed to do a job that they obviously get paid to do, one of their job duty tasks that they get paid to do, unfortunately, they seem to refuse to do that part of their job aspect, and I took care of it, and all I did was just tell the truth of what happened, and apparently some people got very upset by the truth of how it had happened and what had been refused for the service of something. So I took care of it, and people did not like what I had to say about that. But that was the truth of what actually did happen. And so now that person I don't know if that person is still there or if they had to go to another location. I don't know exactly. I wasn't 100% sure of what else had happened with it. And also, yes, this podcast is being recorded in real time. I'm sorry if you all find this boring tonight. So, I just hope majority of you did enjoy the part 2 from last week, which actually was a back-to-back episode. Now, this podcast sometimes is usually a one-man show, and then other times it's not. And so it just varies, I guess, needless to say. So, another thing in this podcast, actually, that I wanted to mention, briefly. I bet I know a lot of you are thinking, well, where's your usual setup? Oh, it's here. I just wasn't able to use that particular rest of the setup because it's actually like very hot out right now, and if I was to use the rest of the setup, there would actually be a sound issue with some interference. So unfortunately, that's why I'm not able to do that right now. And I just wanted to thank majority of you who subscribe to my channel. Actually, I want to thank, you know what? I'm going to rephrase that. I actually want to thank all my subscribers who have subscribed to my channel. And I apologize for that distraction earlier. It was just someone needed something, and it was taken care of quite quickly. I mean, it really wasn't a big deal, but that's okay. They didn't know that it was time for the podcast, actually. But that's okay. Not a big deal. So, now, there was something else I was going to go on about, too. So, yes. Before you subscribe, please make sure you read please make sure you read the disclaimer before you hit that subscribe button. The only problem that I've sort of seen lately with this podcast in particular is ever since this podcast put some rules in place and made a few slight changes, there seems to have been quite an issue with a lot of things after that. And also, no, I'm not doing a Q&A actually, because if you want a Q&A, you would actually have to email into the podcast, actually. So that's why I'm not going to do a Q&A. But, if you guys would like email into the podcast, ask a question, you'd get an answer on here and I'd read it. Get how that works? But no, whatever. But you know what? I also understand that a lot of people are probably mad at me right now due to a service that was supposed to be provided from someone who actually gets paid to do a job, where they're supposed to provide a little bit of a service with one of their job duties, and unfortunately they were not able to do that because of refusal for God only knows what reason. And I know a lot of people are probably not happy with me about that, but that's what happened with that, unfortunately. It wasn't my fault that this person refused to do something that they were getting paid to do. And whatever happened. That's not my fault. But whatever. People want to stay mad at me. I don't give a fuck. Stay mad. But then again, it's like I said, majority of that I had nothing to do with. I was not the cause of the problem. And I'm so honestly just sick and tired of people thinking that I'm always the cause of the problem when I am not the cause of a problem. People really have to stop always assuming that. But why is it that every time when an employee at a job often refuses to do their job duties that they're getting paid to do, the minute they refuse to do one little thing, why is it suddenly escalates to the point where they're suddenly pissed off with me for it? That's just what I would like to know. And why do they always assume that I'm the one who's being horrible when they're the one who refused to provide the service in the first place? If someone could just tell me that, that'd be great. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, sure you did. But anyway, if someone could just tell me that, that'd be great. But then again, you know what? Oh, actually, no. You know what? Maybe there will be a Q&A. Maybe there will, maybe there won't. It just depends. But anyway, so I did just want to talk about part of that because that was not my fault. All I did was just got a hold of some people about a service that was refused, and people unfortunately took it the wrong way, like usual, over nothing, really, to be honest with you. Yeah, there is a little more to it, but we're not going to get into that. I'm not going to explain that any further. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Yeah, well, how would you feel if you walked into a place where you've been before multiple times, they know exactly what they were supposed to do, what your request, and then they turned around and failed to do it because they refused. So you're telling me that you're going to be okay with that? I don't think so. Now, does anyone have anything to say about that? If so, I'd love to hear it. Come on. Let's go. Really? Interesting. This is all very interesting right now. So, speaking of things, I think the next episode is actually going to be, so I'm pretty sure that the next episode is honestly actually going to be a what do you call it? A behind the scenes look of the setup for the podcast, actually. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the next episode will be, is a behind the scenes of this very podcast, of the setup. And, you don't really need a whole lot of money to set up a podcast. You could actually do it for fairly dirt cheap. Or you could also technically do it for like next to nothing, which we are going to get into that in the very next episode. But anyway, so now, aside from all that, I'm going to get into the usual, what I usually talk about on here. So, when I was in high school, actually, this all started when this teacher, we had to do this assignment one day to where something she handed us this paper and said, okay, write down on this paper what you want to do with your, like what type of career or whatever you want to do with your life someday or something or whenever. So I put something about, I'd like to maybe possibility if I can, make an independent, low budget independent horror films, like some of the biggest creators in the industry, like back when they like first started making movies like that in the first place. So I put that. She literally sat there and told me that, oh, that's not a real career and that you're not going to amount to anything. Yeah, okay. Well, look who has 500 and some subscribers on their YouTube channel nowadays. That's right. She would also literally do this thing to where she would talk about other students right in front of me and a couple of other students. She would talk about certain ones that wouldn't come in on certain days. I said to myself, wow, that's sad. She's literally supposed to be educating us, but yet she's literally talking about this one and that one. Interesting. So then, oh, that's not all she would talk about. Her and one of the others, the teacher's assistant, the assistant teacher, and the main teacher lady, would literally both sit there and talk about other students and talk about their coworkers. Oh, yeah. I said to myself, wow, only if all these people knew what was always being said about them. I'm sure when I wasn't around there on certain days, I'm sure she talked about me too. Oh, I know she did. I just had that feeling, and I can only imagine what she was actually saying. Oh, so then, at one point, here she was always sitting there. She literally had nerve once to say something about one of her students who was a little overweight. But yet, here I mind you, she was eating all these things that would cause her to gain weight. But yet, she was sitting there talking about one of her students who was slightly overweight. I said to myself, wow, lady, really? Seriously? Wow. It's like, she would sit there and have an issue with other people when, I mind you, she was just as bad. But yet, she was one of those people who thought she was better than everybody else. with her high designer clothes that she got when her first teaching paycheck, by the way, which is, she seems to forget at one time she cannot afford them designer clothes until she became a teacher. Yeah, see, she seems to forget those days of that. Then again, it's just interesting how she seems to forget all that. But I mind you, here she literally was living her own double life, but yet so was her husband too, apparently. But yet, I mind you, here she was doing all these things, but yet she was sitting there criticizing other people for things that they were doing. And I said to myself, wow, lady, seriously? Oh, now the assistant teacher, she wasn't much better. She was worse. She was horrible. Oh, yeah, that's like one day she would constantly start me during math class. So finally, I had enough of it one day. I finally snapped at her the one day because she would constantly start me during math class and then turn around, act like nothing happened. Oh, but the day I snapped at her, she had nerve to tell the assistant principal. So he walks in. As he goes, oh, well, what's the problem here? I said, oh, a problem here. I said, I said, oh, I don't really seem to see the problem here, so I don't know what you were told. I said, oh, but I have a slight problem. I said, you ever think that maybe the help that was hired around here, maybe the problem half the time, and assuming it's always other people when it's not? And I said, you know, just go back to your office. Don't even answer that. He did, and I never seen him since, to be honest with you. I said to myself there, you know what? That's what you get for basically just walking in there for nothing. Not my problem. Now, let me tell you something. Now, the teacher's aide lady, she was nice. She was one of the nicest ones. But then again, like I said, she was nice. Just not the other two. They were not very nice at all. But you know what? If things had been different, you know, would I be talking about it? No, I would not. But unfortunately, no, things were not different at all with that. So, another thing, sometimes that I wonder if there was always more to it. Then, this teacher thought that I was coming back slightly after graduation. I said, no. I do not know where she ever got that piece of information from. That was just something she assumed in her own head. Just like she also assumed a lot of things in her own head. She had some issues, that one. That's for sure. You know, then there was a time where she like broke her leg, you know? And she literally, I had like no sympathy for her when that happened. But I literally sat there and acted like I did, even though I didn't. Only because I said to a friend of mine at the time, girl I was friends with, I said to my friend at the time, I said, I said, you know what? Yeah, she'll be out for a couple weeks because she broke her leg. I said, but you know what? I said, I guarantee you the shortness of that time will be very short-lived. Oh, it was. Sure enough, exactly like I had said. And something else you all may not know. So needless to say, I was right. So now something else a lot of you may not know, but this podcast episode almost got filmed last night at a very strange location, but unfortunately, it was not able to be filmed at that strange location. So now, yes, I'm going to reiterate this one more time. So, yeah, I just actually want to once again congratulate Anthony Constantino for running for New York, upstate New York's 21st district. And I think that's a good thing. Congratulations. And yes, I did actually meet Greatness a while back. And I do actually have the picture to prove it. And I'm going to show the picture now. I know I showed it, but I'm going to show it again. It's right there. See, there's the proof right there. Because a lot of people, I figured, if I didn't show the actual physical evidence and the proof, that people would assume that I'd be lying or making it up. Well, there's the proof right there, so I cannot be making that up. And, sorry about that. My apologies again. So now, a couple episodes back, there was actually I ran into a sound issue for some reason. I figured out what was causing the interference with it, and unfortunately, it was actually two different things that had caused the interference, and I was able to figure it out what had happened, but because of that little thing, that's why I don't have. I have everything here, but I'm not in my usual other spot with the setup and all the setup items and all that. With this, I don't have the studio mic set up right now, as you can see. And there was something else too. So anyway, years ago, a childhood home that I had lived in years ago, that was a rental property, where I had some awful creepy experiences in. Now, when I had moved out of there and moved far away, I would still drive by there, and that property was still there for quite a while, up until just several months ago, and now it's no longer there. It's mostly all overgrown today, as of the current time. And yes, this podcast is also being recorded in real time. So I also am just hoping that that Anthony Constantino actually gets the New York 21st District that he's running for. And the whole thing, I went to this location that one night that Greatness was going to be at, and I went there, and that's how I was able to meet him and get the photo with him that you all saw, and that's a great thing. And oh, was there? Oh, yeah. Oh, there was something else. So, that childhood home that I had all those creepy experiences in, the day I moved out of there was actually the best thing ever, to be honest with you. Right? Okay. So, anyway, when I had moved out of that home, things were actually a lot better. Well, sort of. Except at the time I was surrounded by some horrible neighbors, but that was besides the point. And then eventually I lived there for a couple of years and then moved out of there. Then moved into something even smaller. Moved into something that was real small. And then lived there for, about a year or two. And then moved out of there into something a little bit bigger. And that's when the encounter happened for the slumlord landlord that I talk about in the 2 previous episodes. And also, I want to say that episode 13 of this podcast is actually season 2. Yes. And I want to thank all of you for sticking around from the beginning for the complete season 1 of the first 12 episodes for the podcast. And yes, thank you for helping kick off season 2, episode 13 of this podcast. And I couldn't have done it without all of you. That's for sure. Thank you for your support, and God bless you all. So now, if you, how would I say this? If you ever see me out in public, don't be afraid to say hi. You can say hi. It's not a big deal. I don't bite, as you can see. So now, oh yes. So basically how I have my podcast actually set up, I'll tell you a little bit about that. I have one of those folding tables, and then I have a folding camping chair that's 4th of July themed, and a laptop, a studio mic, and just some hanging LED lights that you can get for fairly cheap from wherever, don't really matter. The hanging LED lights you can get just about anywhere. Mine actually came from a supply store, and the folding table came from Walmart. The folding camping chair came from Walmart. The laptop for my podcast came from Walmart. And the studio mic for my podcast also came from Walmart. But yeah, like I said, for really dirt cheap, for hardly almost next to nothing, you could literally start a podcast for dirt cheap. But next week's episode, we will look at my setup for the podcast. That way, so if you're thinking of starting one, feel free. Just know you can do it for literally next to nothing like I did. And it's fairly cheap and really easy to do, actually. It's not hard to do at all. You just have to remember to film it and upload it when you're done, and edit a lot of things. You also have to edit a lot of things too. And oh wow, I can't believe this episode's a little longer than they usually are. So anyway, now I also had in that childhood home that I had lived in, that was a rental property. The day I had moved in there as a child, as a little kid, something did not seem right from day one. And then weird, strange things just continued from there. But moving out of there was one of the best things ever. But also, my time there, I did also have I was actually abducted by aliens one night at that property. And that was creepy. And I know, I mean, it can be difficult to talk about. It can also not be difficult to talk about, but the funny thing is, it's just, there was for a long time, for many years, I did not want to talk about it. But one day I said to myself, you know what? No, I'm going to talk about it. That way, so people know what actually had happened to me at that time, at that property. Now, unfortunately, I cannot give the location or the street or anything of that nature about that property due to a lot of reasons that we're not going to get into right now. But anyway, that did all actually happen. And, these things that I talk about on here, I talk about these things because, oh, excuse me. Whew. Sorry, it got a little overheatedly hot there for a minute. Only because it's so hot. It's just very hot in here. A little stuffy too, so like I was saying, I talk about these things here on this podcast because due to the fact that these things had an impact on my life and an impact on me, that's why I talk about these things. Now, if these things did not have an impact on my life or me, I would not talk about them. But unfortunately, all those bad and creepy things did have an impact on my life. Now, there was also some good things there, too, that also had a good impact on me and my life as well. Not everything was bad. Some things were, other things weren't. So if that makes sense, which I'm assuming it does. Was there anything else? Oh, yeah. There is, I think. So, a lot of you are probably saying to yourself, oh, well, you're making this all up. It's a big lie. These things never happened. Actually, they did. Or you're also probably thinking to yourself, some of you, oh, that just does not happen. Yeah, that's fine. It may not happen to you, or it may have happened to you. And if anyone, those things, have any similar experiences about those type of things that had happened, feel free to share that in the email, to email the podcast, and I will read it, and I will answer it right on here. But you know what? As far as this episode goes for the podcast, I will see you all in the next episode, episode 14. See you on the next. God bless you all, and God bless all of you, and I will see you all in the next episode, episode 14 of Blast of Strangeness podcast. Bye.